The morning sun had not yet risen when Maya opened her eyes. She lay on a thin mattress in the corner of the downtown shelter. Around her, 30 other women slept on similar mattresses. Some snored. Some coughed. The room smelled of old sweat and cheap soap. Maya sat up slowly and rubbed her eyes. She had been dreaming about her mother again. In the dream, her mother sat beside her at their old piano. Her mother's hands moved gracefully over the white and black keys. The music filled their small living room with warmth. Her mother smiled at her and said, "Your turn now, my love." But when Maya reached for the keys, she woke up. She always woke up at that part. Maya was 19 years old, but most days she felt much older. Life on the streets had a way of aging a person quickly. She had been homeless for 3 years now. Before that, she had lived in 5 different foster homes. None of them worked out. The families were not bad people, but they did not understand her. They did not understand why she needed music the way other people needed air. She gathered her few belongings and stuffed them into her backpack. 2 changes of clothes, a toothbrush, a small bag of toiletries, and wrapped carefully in an old t-shirt, a silver necklace that had belonged to her mother. The necklace was the only thing Maya owned that was worth any money, but she would never sell it. Never. It was all she had left of the life before. The shelter required everyone to leave by 7 in the morning. Maya walked out into the cool dawn air. The city was just beginning to wake up. Delivery trucks rumbled down the streets. A few early workers hurried toward the subway station. Maya pulled her jacket tighter around her body and started walking. She made her way to her usual spot on 5th Street. It was a busy corner near the shopping district. Lots of foot traffic meant more people who might drop a coin or two into her cup. She set down her backpack and pulled out her most precious possession after her mother's necklace. It was a small electronic keyboard.
She had found it in a dumpster 2 years ago.
Half the keys did not work. The sound was tinny and cheap, but it made music, and that was enough. Maya set the keyboard on an overturned plastic crate. She placed a paper cup in front of it with a handwritten sign that said, "Music for Hope." Then she sat down on the cold sidewalk and began to play. Her fingers moved across the working keys. She played songs she had learned as a child. Songs her mother had taught her before the accident, before everything changed. The music was not perfect. The broken keys meant she had to skip notes and change melodies. But she played with her whole heart. People walked by. Most did not even look at her. Some glanced down with pity in their eyes before hurrying past. A few stopped long enough to drop coins into her cup. Quarters, dimes, sometimes a dollar bill if she was lucky. One businessman in an expensive suit dropped in a $5 bill without breaking his stride. Maya whispered a thank you, but he was already gone. By noon, Maya had collected $8.47. Enough for lunch and maybe breakfast tomorrow if she was careful. She packed up her keyboard and walked to a small deli 3 blocks away. The owner, Mr. Chen, was kind to her. He gave her yesterday's sandwiches for half price. "How is the music going?" Mr. Chen asked as he wrapped a turkey sandwich in white paper. "Same as always," Maya said. She handed him $3. "You are very talented," Mr. Chen said. "You should be playing in concert halls, not on street corners." Maya smiled sadly. Maybe in another life. She ate her sandwich slowly in a small park. Pigeons gathered around her feet, hoping for crumbs. She broke off pieces of bread and tossed them to the birds. A young mother pushed a stroller past her. The baby inside laughed at the pigeons. Maya remembered being that small, that carefree. It felt like a lifetime ago. Her parents had died when she was 12. A car accident on a rainy Tuesday night. They were coming home from her piano recital. Maya had performed beautifully that night. Her mother had been so proud. Her father had brought her roses. They were laughing and planning to get ice cream when the other car ran the red light. Maya was at her grandmother's house when the police came. She remembered the look on the officer's face, the way her grandmother collapsed to her knees, the sound of her own screaming. After that, everything became a blur. Her grandmother was too old and sick to care for a child. Maya entered the foster care system. The first foster home was with the Johnsons. They were nice enough, but they had 3 children of their own. Maya felt invisible there. She spent most of her time in her small room, dreaming of piano keys she no longer had access to. The Johnsons could not afford piano lessons. They said it was too expensive, too impractical. The second home was with a single mother named Patricia. Patricia worked 2 jobs and was rarely home. Maya took care of herself mostly. She did well in school, but she was lonely. So lonely. She asked Patricia once if she could take piano lessons. Patricia laughed. Not meanly, but tiredly. "Baby, we can barely afford groceries," she said. Piano is for rich kids. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th homes all blended together in Maya's memory. Different faces, different rules, but the same feeling. She did not belong. She was temporary, a burden, a file number in an overwhelmed system. When she turned 16, Maya ran away. She could not take it anymore. The moving from place to place. The feeling of being unwanted. She thought she could make it on her own. She thought wrong. The streets were harder than she had imagined. So much harder. She learned quickly that a young girl alone was vulnerable. She learned to sleep in public places where there was light and people. She learned which soup kitchens served on which days. She learned to make $8 last 3 days. She learned that most people looked through homeless people as if they were ghosts. But she never stopped playing music. Even when her fingers were stiff from cold. Even when she was so hungry her stomach cramped. She played because it was the only connection she had left to her parents, to her old life, to the girl she used to be. Maya spent the afternoon at the public library. It was warm there and she could use the bathroom. She sat in the music section and read about famous pianists, Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin. She dreamed of playing the pieces they had written. Her fingers moved silently in the air, practicing on invisible keys. Around 4 o'clock, an older librarian named Mrs. Garcia approached her. "Maya," she said softly, "we are closing soon." Maya looked up in surprise. Mrs. Garcia was one of the few people who knew her name, who treated her like a person, not a problem. "I almost forgot," Mrs. Garcia said. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I saw this and thought of you." Maya took the paper and unfolded it. It was a bright yellow flyer. Bold letters across the top read, "America's Got Dreams National Talent Competition." Below that it said, "Auditions in your city next month. Grand prize $100,000 and a recording contract. Everyone welcome." Maya stared at the flyer. Her heart began to beat faster. $100,000. That was more money than she could imagine. That was enough to change everything. Get an apartment. Go to music school. Have a real life. But then reality crashed down on her. Who was she kidding? She was a homeless girl with a broken keyboard. The competition would be filled with real musicians. People with training and expensive instruments and nice clothes. They would laugh at her, just like everyone else did. "You should try," Mrs. Garcia said gently. She had seen the hope and then the defeat pass across Maya's face. "You have nothing to lose." Maya folded the flyer carefully and put it in her pocket. "Thank you," she said. But she did not believe she would actually do it. That evening, Maya returned to her corner on 5th Street. The evening crowd was different from the morning crowd. More tourists. More people in good moods after dinner. She played for 2 hours and collected another $6. Not bad for a weeknight. As she played, she thought about the flyer in her pocket. She thought about her mother's hands on the piano keys. She thought about the words her mother used to say. "Music speaks when words fail, my darling. Your music will touch people's hearts. Never forget that." A man in a dirty jacket sat down next to her. His name was Marco. He was 40-something with a long gray beard and kind eyes. Marco had been homeless for 10 years. He looked out for Maya like a protective uncle. "You look troubled," Marco said. Maya stopped playing and told him about the flyer, about the competition, about how stupid it would be for her to even think about auditioning. Marco listened quietly. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Let me tell you something, kid. I have been on these streets a long time. I have seen a lot of people give up. Give up on their dreams. Give up on themselves. Give up on tomorrow. You know what happens to people who give up?" Maya shook her head. "They disappear. Not die, not always. But they disappear inside. They become ghosts walking around in bodies." Marco looked at her seriously. "You are not a ghost, Maya. You are alive. You have a gift. Maybe you will not win. Maybe they will laugh at you. So what? At least you will have tried. At least you will know you did not give up." Maya felt tears burning in her eyes. "I am scared," she whispered. "Good," Marco said. "Being scared means you care. Being scared means it matters. Do it anyway." That night at the shelter, Maya could not sleep. She lay on her mattress and thought about her parents, about her mother's piano lessons, about all the years she had spent dreaming of playing real music on a real piano, about the competition. What did she really have to lose? She was already at the bottom, already invisible, already nothing in the eyes of most people who passed her on the street.
Maybe Marco was right.
Maybe trying and failing was better than never trying at all. In the darkness, Maya reached under her mattress and pulled out her mother's necklace. She held it close to her chest. The silver was cool against her skin. She closed her eyes and made a decision. She would audition. The next morning, Maya asked at the shelter if anyone had clothes she could borrow. An older woman named Jean said she had a black dress that might fit. It was too big and a bit worn, but it was clean. Another woman gave her a pair of shoes that were only slightly scuffed. Maya spent the next 3 weeks practicing. She played her keyboard on the street corner, but in her mind she was on a big stage. She worked on an original piece she had been composing in her head for years. She called it Mama's Song. It was everything she felt. All the sadness and hope and love and longing. All of it poured into music. Marco helped her fill out the audition application. They used the library computer. Maya was terrified she would be rejected. But 2 weeks later, she received an email. She had been accepted for an audition slot. The audition was on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Maya barely slept the night before. She woke before dawn and took a long shower at the shelter, using the last of her good shampoo. She put on Jean's black dress. It hung loose on her thin frame, but it was the nicest thing she had worn in years. She brushed her long dark hair until it shined. She put on her mother's necklace. Marco walked with her to the audition venue. It was a huge theater downtown, the kind of place Maya had only seen from the outside. There was a line of people stretching around the block. All of them were there to audition. Maya's heart sank. So many people, all of them probably more talented than her. "You can do this," Marco said. He squeezed her shoulder. "Remember, you have already won just by being here, just by trying." Maya hugged him and got in line. As she waited, she watched the other contestants. They looked so confident, so polished. Some had instrument cases that probably cost more than Maya had made in a year of busking. Many had parents or friends with them, chatting excitedly. Maya stood alone in her borrowed dress and bargain shoes, clutching her backpack. Some of the other contestants looked at her strangely. She heard whispers. A few people moved away from her slightly, as if poverty might be contagious. Maya wanted to run, to disappear, to go back to her safe corner where at least she knew what to expect. But then she thought of her mother, of Marco, of Mrs. Garcia, of everyone who had believed in her when she could not believe in herself. She took a deep breath and stayed in line. The wait was 3 hours long. 3 hours of doubt and fear and desperate hope. Finally, a young woman with a clipboard called her name. Maya Santos. Maya raised her hand. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone must be able to hear it. "You are up next," the woman said. "Follow me." Maya followed her down a long hallway. She could hear music coming from somewhere. Someone singing. Someone playing guitar. All of it sounded so professional. So perfect. What was she doing here? They reached a door. The woman opened it. Beyond was a stage. Bright lights. Cameras. And in the front row, 3 judges sat behind a long table. "Good luck," the woman whispered. Maya stepped through the door. Her legs felt like water. The door closed behind her. There was no going back now. She walked slowly toward the stage, every step feeling like a mile. Her hands were shaking. Her mouth was dry. This was it. This was her chance. Maybe her only chance. To show the world she was more than a homeless girl with a broken keyboard. To prove her mother had been right. That music could speak when words failed. Maya reached the stairs leading up to the stage. She took a deep breath, touched her mother's necklace for luck, and began to climb. The lights were so bright she could barely see. But somewhere in the darkness beyond those lights were the judges, and beyond them an audience, all waiting to see what she would do, all waiting to judge her. Maya walked across the stage toward the most beautiful piano she had ever seen. It was a grand piano, black and shining under the lights. She had never played a real piano before. Only electronic keyboards. Only broken instruments. But this piano looked like it belonged in a palace. She was almost there now. Just a few more steps. Her entire life had led to this moment. Every loss. Every cold night. every empty stomach, every person who had looked through her as if she were invisible. It all came down to this. Maya reached the piano bench and sat down carefully. She looked down at the keys. Perfect white and black keys, all of them working. All of them waiting for her touch. She could hear whispers from the audience, snickers. She knew what they were seeing. A poor girl in an ill-fitting dress, a nobody. Someone who did not belong, but they had not heard her play yet. Maya placed her fingers gently on the keys. She closed her eyes. And in that moment she was not on a stage. She was in her old living room. Her mother sat beside her. Her father stood in the doorway smiling. Everything was perfect and whole and filled with love. She opened her eyes. The lights blazed down on her. The judges waited. The audience whispered. It was time to let them hear her heart. One of the judges leaned forward. He was a middle-aged man in an expensive suit. His hair was perfectly styled. He looked bored, like he had seen 1,000 auditions already today and expected nothing special. "Welcome," he said. His voice echoed in the large theater. "What is your name?" "Maya Santos," she said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. She cleared her throat. "My name is Maya Santos. And what will you be performing for us today, Maya?" This came from the second judge, a woman with bright red lipstick and designer glasses. "An original composition," Maya said. "I call it Mama's Song." The third judge, an older man with gray hair and a kind face, smiled slightly. "Original work. That is ambitious. How long have you been playing piano?" Maya hesitated. How could she explain? That she had learned as a child but had not touched a real piano in 7 years? That she had been practicing on a broken keyboard found in a dumpster? That this was the first time she would play on an actual piano? "I learned when I was young," she said carefully. "From my mother." "Wonderful," the first judge said, though his tone suggested he found it anything but wonderful. "And where do you study now?" "What music school?" Maya felt her face grow hot. This was the moment she had been dreading. She could lie, make up some school name. But what was the point? They would find out eventually. "I do not go to music school," she said quietly. "I am homeless. I play on street corners." There was a moment of shocked silence. Then someone in the audience laughed. Just one person at first, but then others joined in. Not mean laughter exactly, but the kind of nervous laughter people make when they do not know how to react to something uncomfortable. The first judge's eyebrows rose. He exchanged glances with the other two judges. The woman with red lipstick looked uncomfortable. The older man's kind smile faded into something more neutral. "Homeless," the first judge repeated. He sat back in his chair. "I see. Well, this should be interesting." More laughter from the audience. Maya felt her eyes begin to burn with tears. She would not cry. She refused to cry, not here, not in front of all these people who were already judging her. A voice from the audience shouted, "Is this a joke?" Someone else called out, "Where did they find her?" The host of the show, a cheerful man in a bright blue suit, stepped forward. He was trying to keep the energy positive. Now, everyone," he said. "This is America's Got Dreams. Everyone gets a chance to show their talent. That is what we are all about." But even he looked doubtful as he glanced at Maya in her borrowed dress. The first judge waved his hand dismissively. Fine. Let us hear what you have got. Please go ahead." Maya looked down at the piano keys. Her hands were shaking so badly she was not sure she could play. The whispers from the audience seemed to get louder. She heard words like waste of time and what was she thinking and this is embarrassing. She thought about Marco's words, about being scared but doing it anyway. She thought about her mother who had believed in her, who had told her that music speaks when words fail. She thought about all the cold nights and empty days and moments when she wanted to give up but did not. Maya touched her mother's necklace. The silver was warm from being against her skin. She took a deep breath. Then she placed her hands on the keys. The first note rang out clear and pure. It filled the entire theater. Maya had never heard such a beautiful sound. The piano was perfectly tuned. The acoustics in the theater were perfect. It was like the instrument was singing. She played the second note. Then the third. The beginning of Mama's Song was soft and gentle, like a lullaby, like a mother singing to her child. Maya forgot about the audience, forgot about the judges, forgot about everything except the music. Her fingers moved across the keys with confidence now. The song began to build. The melody grew stronger. It told a story without words. The story of a happy childhood, of love and warmth and safety. Her right hand carried the main melody while her left hand provided harmony. The music swelled and filled every corner of the theater. The laughter had stopped. Maya did not notice, but the audience had gone completely silent. People who had been shuffling in their seats sat still. People who had been checking their phones looked up. Even the judges leaned forward in their chairs. The song shifted. The melody became darker, sadder. This was the part about loss, about the accident, about saying goodbye to everything safe and known. Maya's fingers pressed harder on the keys. The music grew intense, full of grief and confusion. She played the pain of a 12-year-old girl who lost everything in one terrible moment. Tears ran down Maya's cheeks as she played, but she did not stop. She could not stop. The music poured out of her like water from a broken dam. All the years of holding it in. All the years of being invisible. All the loneliness and fear and desperate hope. It all flowed through her fingers into the piano. The song moved into its middle section. This was the part about surviving. About getting up each morning even when she wanted to stay hidden under thin shelter blankets. About finding small moments of beauty in a harsh world. About Marco's kindness and Mrs. Garcia's encouragement and Mr. Chen's discounted sandwiches. The music here was neither happy nor sad. It was determined, resilient. It said, "I am still here. I am still fighting." In the audience, people were crying now. A woman in the third row had her hand over her mouth. A teenage girl clutched her father's arm. Even some of the stage hands standing in the wings had stopped working to listen. The cameras captured everything. Maya's face lost in the music. The audience's transformation from mockery to awe. The judge's stunned expressions. The first judge, who had been so dismissive before, had tears running down his face. He did not bother to wipe them away. His mouth hung slightly open. The woman with red lipstick gripped the edge of the judge's table. Her knuckles were white. The older judge had closed his eyes. His face was peaceful but sad, like he was remembering his own losses. Maya played on. The final section of Mama's song was about hope, about refusing to give up, about the belief that tomorrow might be better. The melody lifted. It became lighter. Not happy exactly, but hopeful. It was the sound of sunrise after a long, dark night. It was the first warm day of spring. It was the feeling of taking a breath after being underwater too long. Her fingers flew across the keys now. The music built to a crescendo, louder and fuller and more powerful. It said, "I am here, I matter. My voice deserves to be heard." The entire theater seemed to vibrate with the sound. It was like the piano was not an instrument anymore, but a living thing, like it was singing Maya's soul directly into the world. And then, with one final perfect chord, the music ended. The last notes hung in the air for a long moment. Maya kept her hands on the keys. She kept her eyes closed. She was afraid to open them, afraid to see the judges' faces, afraid to return to reality where she was just a homeless girl who did not belong. The silence stretched on.
5 seconds.
10 seconds, 15. Maya's heart pounded. Had she failed? Had it not been good enough? She finally opened her eyes and looked up. The entire audience was on their feet. Every single person. They were applauding so loudly it sounded like thunder. Some people were cheering. Many were crying openly. The applause went on and on. It did not stop. Maya sat frozen on the piano bench, unable to believe what she was seeing. The host rushed onto the stage. His eyes were red. He had been crying too. "Ladies and gentlemen," he shouted over the applause. "Maya Santos!" The applause got even louder. Someone in the back of the theater started chanting, "Maya, Maya, Maya." Others joined in. Within seconds, half the audience was chanting her name. People she had never met. People who 5 minutes ago had been laughing at her. Maya stood up from the piano bench on shaky legs. She did not know what to do. She had never experienced anything like this. The host gently guided her to the front of the stage to face the judges. The first judge was still crying. He shook his head slowly, like he could not believe what he had just heard. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "I need to apologize to you," he said. "When you walked out here, I judged you. I saw your clothes. I heard you were homeless, and I assumed you would not be any good. I was so wrong. So incredibly wrong." He paused and wiped his eyes. "That was one of the most powerful performances I have ever witnessed. In 20 years of judging talent shows, I have never been so moved. You did not just play music. You made me feel every emotion. You made me understand what it is to lose everything and keep going. You are extraordinary." The audience erupted in applause again. The first judge waited for it to quiet down before he said, "It is a yes from me." "Absolutely yes." The woman with red lipstick was crying so hard she could barely speak. "I do not even have words," she said. "I have been sitting here trying to think of something intelligent to say, but I cannot." That was beyond words. The way you played, the emotion, the technique, everything. You are the real thing, Maya. You are what this competition is supposed to be about, finding real talent in unexpected places. She nodded firmly. "Yes from me." 100% yes. The older judge with gray hair smiled warmly at Maya. His eyes were kind again, but also sad. "Young lady," he said, "I am a piano teacher. I have been teaching for 40 years. I have worked with students who went on to play in the world's greatest concert halls, and I can tell you with complete certainty that you have a gift. Not just technical skill, though your technique is excellent, but you have something more rare. You have soul. You have the ability to make people feel. That cannot be taught." He leaned forward. "I do not know what your life has been like. I cannot imagine the struggles you have faced, but I want you to know that your music matters. You matter, and it would be my honor to send you through to the next round." Yes from me. 3 yeses. Maya had made it through. She had actually done it. The applause was deafening now. People were standing on their chairs. The host grabbed her hand and held it up like she had won a boxing match. "There you have it, folks," he shouted. 3 yeses for Maya Santos. We will see her in the next round. As Maya walked off stage, her legs barely held her up. She felt like she was floating, like she was in a dream and might wake up any second back in the shelter. Backstage, other contestants who had been waiting for their turn stared at her. Some looked impressed. Some looked jealous. A few smiled and nodded with respect. One woman, probably in her 30s and dressed in an expensive gown, stopped Maya. "That was beautiful," she said quietly. "Truly beautiful. I was out there watching on the monitor." "You made me cry." "Thank you," Maya whispered. She did not know what else to say. A production assistant rushed over with a clipboard. "Maya Santos? We need to get some information from you for the show. Contact details, social security number, that sort of thing." Maya's heart sank a little. Contact details. What was she supposed to say? She did not have a phone. She did not have an address. She lived in a shelter that required everyone to leave each morning. I do not have a permanent address right now," Maya said. The production assistant looked confused. "No address? But how do we reach you? How do we let you know when the next round is?" "I can give you my email," Maya said. "I check it at the library." The assistant frowned but wrote down Maya's email address. "Okay, we will send all the details there. Make sure you check it regularly. The next round is in 3 weeks. You will need to prepare another piece." "I will," Maya promised. "I will check every day." As she left the theater, Maya's head was spinning. She had done it. She had actually done it. She walked down the street in a daze, still wearing Jean's borrowed dress and the scuffed shoes. People passed her without a second glance. They had no idea that just an hour ago she had received a standing ovation from hundreds of people. Marco was waiting for her at their usual corner. He jumped up when he saw her coming. "Well?" he asked. "How did it go?" Maya could not speak. She just nodded and started crying. Happy tears this time. Marco hugged her tightly. "I knew it," he said. "I knew you could do it." They said yes, Maya finally managed to say. All 3 of them. They said yes. That night at the shelter, Maya could not sleep. She kept replaying the audition in her mind. The moment when the laughter stopped, the feeling of playing a real piano, the judge's tears, the standing ovation. It felt like it had happened to someone else. Some other girl who was not homeless and invisible, but it had happened to her. Maya Santos. The girl everyone overlooked. She had made hundreds of people stop and listen. She had made them feel something, just like her mother said she could. Maya held her mother's necklace tight. "I did it, Mama," she whispered into the darkness. "I made them hear me." But even as joy filled her heart, a small voice of doubt crept in. The audition was just the beginning. The next round would be harder. The other contestants would be even more talented. The judges' expectations would be higher. Could she really compete? Could she survive the pressure? And what would happen if she actually won? How would she handle suddenly being seen when she had been invisible for so long? Part of her was terrified of success almost as much as failure. Success meant change. It meant being exposed. It meant the whole world might learn her story. Maya closed her eyes and tried to sleep. Tomorrow she would worry. Tomorrow she would figure out what came next. But tonight, just for tonight, she would let herself feel proud. She had taken a chance. She had faced her fears. And she had shown everyone, including herself, that she was more than what they saw on the surface. The girl they laughed at had made them cry. And that was only the beginning. Maya woke up the next morning to chaos. One of the other women in the shelter was shaking her shoulder roughly. Maya, wake up! You are on the internet." Maya opened her eyes groggily. "What? The internet? You are famous. Everyone is talking about you." Maya sat up quickly. Other women had gathered around. They were all looking at their phones. Someone turned a phone screen toward Maya. It showed a video. Maya recognized herself on stage, sitting at the piano. The title read, "Homeless Girl Silences Cruel Audience with Breathtaking Performance." "It has 3 million views already," the woman said excitedly. "And it was only posted last night." Maya's hand started shaking. 3 million views. 3 million people had watched her audition. 3 million strangers now knew her story. She felt her stomach twist with anxiety. "Look at the comments," another woman said. She started reading from her phone. "This one says, 'I am crying so hard right now. This girl is incredible.' And this one, 'The people who laughed at her should be ashamed. She has more talent in her little finger than most professional musicians.'" Throughout that morning, more and more people at the shelter came up to Maya. Everyone wanted to talk about the video. Some women who had never spoken to her before suddenly acted like they were friends. It made Maya uncomfortable. Nothing about her had changed. She was still the same person she had been yesterday. But now people saw her differently. When she left the shelter, Maya noticed people staring at her on the street. A teenage girl stopped her. "Are you the piano girl? From the video?" Maya nodded uncertainly. "Can I take a picture with you?" the girl asked. Her face was bright with excitement. Maya agreed, though it felt strange. The girl took a selfie with her and then immediately started typing on her phone, probably posting it to social media. Maya continued walking, feeling exposed and watched in a way she never had before. At the library, Mrs. Garcia rushed over as soon as Maya walked in. "I saw the video. Oh, Maya, I am so proud of you. You were magnificent." "Thank you," Maya said. She headed to the computers to check her email. She had 17 new messages. Most were from people she did not know. Reporters asking for interviews. Agents wanting to represent her. Random people telling her she was an inspiration. It was overwhelming. One email was from the television show. It had details about the next round of competition. She would need to perform again in 3 weeks. This time it would be broadcast live on television. Millions of people would be watching. Not just a theater audience, but the entire country. Maya's chest tightened. How was she supposed to prepare? She still had the same broken keyboard. She still slept in a shelter. She still spent most of her day just trying to survive. How could she compete against people who had real training and real instruments and real support? She was so lost in her worried thoughts that she did not notice Mr. Chen until he touched her arm gently. "Maya, are you all right?" She looked up. Mr. Chen stood beside her with a concerned expression. "I saw your video," he said. "The whole neighborhood is talking about it. You are famous now." "I do not feel famous," Maya said quietly. "I feel scared." Mr. Chen sat down in the chair next to her. "Famous or not famous, you are still you. Do not forget that. All these people watching videos, they do not know you. Only you know your heart. Only you know your music. Stay true to that." His words helped a little. Maya spent the rest of the day trying to practice on her broken keyboard, but people kept interrupting. Some wanted pictures. Some wanted to talk. Some just wanted to stare. By evening, Maya was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical tiredness. That night, something unexpected happened. A woman Maya had never met came to the shelter. She was well-dressed and professional-looking. She asked to speak with Maya privately. "My name is Jennifer Cole," the woman said. "I am a music teacher. I saw your audition video and I was moved to tears. I want to help you." Maya was immediately suspicious. In her experience, when people said they wanted to help, They usually wanted something in return. Help how? I want to give you piano lessons, Jennifer said. Free of charge. I have a studio with a real grand piano. You can come practice whenever you like. I can help you prepare for the next round of competition. Why? Maya asked bluntly. Why would you do that? Jennifer smiled sadly. Because I know what it is like to struggle. When I was young, I wanted to be a concert pianist. But my family was poor. We could not afford lessons. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through music school. It took me 10 years, but I made it. She paused. I saw myself in you, Maya. Your raw talent. Your determination. I want to give you the opportunity I wish I had been given. Maya wanted to believe her. She wanted to trust that someone could be kind without expecting anything back. But trust was hard when life had taught you to be careful. What if I fail? Maya asked. What if I do not make it to the finals? Will you still help me? Yes, Jennifer said firmly. Whether you win or lose, I will still help you. This is not about the competition. This is about your future. You have a gift that should not be wasted playing on street corners. Something in Jennifer's voice convinced Maya. Maybe it was the sincerity. Maybe it was the desperation in her own heart. Maybe it was just that she needed to believe someone could be good without reason. Okay, Maya said. I will come. The next day, Maya went to Jennifer's studio. It was in a nice part of town, in a building with clean hallways and working elevators. Jennifer's studio was on the 3rd floor. It was a bright, warm room with high ceilings and wide windows. And in the center of the room stood a beautiful grand piano. Go ahead, Jennifer said. Try it. Maya approached the piano slowly. She was almost afraid to touch it. It was so perfect, so expensive. She sat down on the bench and placed her fingers on the keys. She played a simple scale. The sound was rich and full, nothing like her broken keyboard. Now play your audition piece, Jennifer said. Maya played Mama's song again. It sounded even better on this piano. Every note was clear. Every emotion came through perfectly. When she finished, Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. You have incredible natural ability, Jennifer finally said. Your technique needs work. You have some bad habits from teaching yourself. But your musicality, your feeling for the music, that is something most pianists spend their whole lives trying to develop. You already have it. For the next 2 weeks, Maya came to Jennifer's studio every day. Jennifer taught her proper finger positioning, how to use her whole body when playing, not just her hands, how to control dynamics and tempo, how to read complex sheet music. It was like learning to play all over again, but this time with guidance. Maya practiced for hours each day. Her fingers grew sore. Her back ached from sitting so long, but she loved every minute. This was what she had dreamed about as a child. Real lessons with a real teacher on a real piano, but not everything was going well. The attention from the video was getting worse. Maya's face was now recognized everywhere she went. People constantly stopped her on the street. Some were kind. Others were invasive. They wanted to know details about her life, about why she was homeless, about what happened to her parents. It felt like they were not seeing her as a person, but as a story, an inspiration. A symbol. News reporters found out where she usually set up her keyboard. They came with cameras and microphones. How does it feel to be an overnight sensation? They asked. What are you going to do with the prize money if you win? Tell us about living on the streets. Maya tried to be polite, but inside she felt herself shutting down. She had not auditioned to become famous. She had auditioned because she loved music, because it was her connection to her mother, because it was the one pure thing in her difficult life. Now it felt like even that was being taken from her and turned into a spectacle. Marco noticed the change in her. You seem sad, he said one evening. You should be happy. You are getting everything you wanted. Am I? Maya asked. I wanted to play music, but now it feels like the music is not even important. People do not care about my playing. They care about my story, about the sad homeless girl who made good. I am just entertainment to them. Maybe some people, Marco agreed, but not everyone. Jennifer is not treating you like entertainment. She is treating you like a student. And the judges, they cared about your music, not your story. Maya knew he was right, but it was hard to remember that when strangers constantly invaded her space, when people took her picture without asking, when reporters showed up at the shelter trying to interview the other residents about her. One morning, Maya found a crowd of reporters waiting outside the shelter. They rushed toward her with cameras and microphones as soon as she stepped outside. The questions came rapid fire. Maya, is it true you have been homeless for 3 years?
How do you feel about critics who say the show is exploiting your poverty?
What happened to your parents? Are you worried you cannot compete against contestants with formal training? Maya felt trapped. The crowd pressed in around her. She could not breathe. She could not think. She just wanted them to go away. To leave her alone. To let her be invisible again. Please, she said. Please, I just want to go to the library. But they did not move. They kept shouting questions. Kept pushing cameras in her face. Maya felt panic rising in her chest. She pushed through the crowd and ran. She ran down the street away from the cameras and questions. She did not stop until she was several blocks away, bent over and gasping for breath. Her phone buzzed. She had gotten a cheap prepaid phone after the audition so the show could contact her. It was a text from Jennifer. Are you okay? I saw the video of reporters mobbing you. Come to the studio. You can stay here as long as you need. Maya took a bus to Jennifer's building. When she arrived, Jennifer took one look at her face and wrapped her in a hug. This is too much for you, Jennifer said. You need protection from all this attention. I do not know how to handle it, Maya admitted. Everyone wants something from me. Even the people trying to help seem to want something. Like they want to be part of my story. Jennifer led her to the couch and made her tea. Listen to me. Fame is complicated, especially sudden fame. People think they know you because they saw a video. But they do not know you. They know a story about you. There is a difference. What do I do? You stay focused on the music, Jennifer said. That is the only thing you can control. You cannot control what people say or think. You cannot control the media. But you can control your playing. Pour everything into that. When you're at the piano, nothing else matters. Over the next week, that is exactly what Maya did. She stopped reading comments on her video. She stopped looking at news articles about herself. She asked Mrs. Garcia to check her email and only tell her about important messages. She spent every possible moment at Jennifer's studio, practicing. She was working on a new piece for the next round. Jennifer helped her choose a classical piece by Chopin combined with her own improvisation. It was technically challenging but emotionally powerful, perfect for showing both skill and heart. But even as Maya prepared, doubt crept in. The other contestants who made it through were incredibly talented. She had watched some of their audition videos online, singers with voices like angels, dancers who moved like water, musicians who had been training since they were toddlers. And here she was, a girl who had learned piano as a child and then had 7 years with no real instrument. I am not good enough, Maya told Jennifer during one practice session. The others are so much better trained, so much more polished. Jennifer stopped her. Maya, you need to understand something. Technical skill is important, yes, but it is not everything. Do you know how many technically perfect pianists there are in the world? Thousands. Tens of thousands. They can all play the notes correctly. They can all perform difficult pieces without mistakes. She paused. But how many of them can make people feel the way you did in that audition? How many can reach into someone's chest and squeeze their heart with music? That is rare. That is precious. That is what you have. But what if it was just luck? Maya asked. What if I cannot do it again? Then you cannot, Jennifer said simply. And that is okay. You will still have learned so much. You will still have grown as a musician. This competition is not the only measure of your worth. The night before the next round, Maya could not sleep. She tossed and turned in her shelter bed. She ran through the piece in her mind over and over. What if she forgot the notes? What if her hands shook too much? What if the audience did not react the same way? What if the judges were disappointed? At 3 a.m, she gave up on sleep. She took out her mother's necklace and held it. Mama, she whispered, I am so scared. I do not know if I can do this again. Everyone expects so much now. What if I let them down? What if I let you down? Of course her mother did not answer. But Maya imagined what she would say. Her mother would tell her that it did not matter what anyone else expected. That the only person she needed to please was herself. That music was not about perfection. It was about truth. Maya closed her eyes and made a promise to herself. Tomorrow, when she walked onto that stage, she would not think about the millions of people watching. She would not think about the judges or the other contestants or the comments online. She would think only about the music, about the story she wanted to tell, about making her mother proud. The sun rose slowly, turning the shelter windows golden. Maya packed her few belongings. She put on the same borrowed black dress. She clasped her mother's necklace around her neck. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. She looked tired, scared, but also determined. "You can do this," she told her reflection. "You have already survived so much worse." Jennifer picked her up in her car. They drove to the theater in silence. Maya watched the city go by outside the window. So many people going about their normal lives. They had no idea that her entire future might be decided in the next few hours. At the theater, the backstage area was chaos. Contestants rushing around in costume. Makeup artists and stylists everywhere. The energy was frantic and exciting. Maya felt out of place again in her simple dress while others wore elaborate outfits. A production assistant found her. "Maya Santos, you are on in 20 minutes. Do you need hair and makeup?" Maya looked at the makeup room. It was full of people being transformed, made beautiful and glamorous. She shook her head. "No, thank you. I want to look like myself." The assistant shrugged. "Suit yourself. Be ready in the wings in 15 minutes. Maya found a quiet corner and closed her eyes. She breathed deeply. In and out! In and out! She thought about her mother's hands on piano keys. She thought about Marco's encouragement. She thought about Jennifer's belief in her. She thought about Mrs. Garcia's kindness. She thought about everyone who had seen something in her when she could not see it herself. "Maya Santos," a voice called. "You are up." Maya opened her eyes. This was it. Time to see if lightning could strike twice. Time to find out if she was a one-hit wonder or the real thing. She walked toward the stage. The lights were just as bright as before. The audience just as large, but this time they were not laughing when she appeared. This time they erupted in applause before she even reached the piano. They knew who she was now. The girl from the video, the homeless pianist, the overnight sensation. They had expectations. Maya felt the weight of those expectations pressing down on her shoulders. It was so heavy she could barely breathe. But then she saw the piano, beautiful and perfect and waiting for her. She walked to it like greeting an old friend. She sat down. She placed her hands on the keys. And just like that, everything else disappeared. There was only her and the music, the way it was always meant to be. Maya began to play. The opening notes of Chopin filled the theater, delicate and precise. She had practiced this piece hundreds of times in the past 3 weeks. Every note was memorized, every dynamic carefully planned. But as she played, something felt wrong. It was too perfect, too careful, too safe. She was playing the notes correctly, but she was not playing from her heart. She was playing to meet expectations, to prove she was not a fluke, to show she deserved to be there. And that fear of failure was making her music cold. Maya could feel it. The audience could feel it too. The energy in the theater was different from her audition. People listened politely, but there was no magic, no connection. She was just another pianist playing a classical piece. Nothing special. Panic started to creep into Maya's chest. This was not working. She was losing them. She was losing herself. Her fingers stumbled slightly on a difficult passage. It was barely noticeable, but Maya felt it like a crack in her foundation. She thought about stopping, about apologizing, about running off stage and disappearing back into the safety of being invisible. At least when she was invisible, no one expected anything from her. At least then she could not disappoint anyone. But then Maya remembered something Jennifer had told her during their last practice session. When you feel lost in the music, Jennifer had said, stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to impress anyone. Just play your truth. Play what your heart needs to say. Maya made a decision. Right there in the middle of the Chopin piece with millions of people watching on live television, she stopped following the sheet music in her mind. She let her fingers find their own way. She began to improvise. The classical piece morphed into something else. Something uniquely hers. She wove in melodies from Mama's song. She added jazz influences she had heard from street musicians. She let the music become a conversation between the past and present. Between what was expected and what was real, the change was immediate. The theater came alive again. People sat up straighter. The judges leaned forward. Maya could feel the shift in energy. This was what they had connected with before. Not technical perfection, but raw honesty. Not someone trying to be what they thought they should be, but someone brave enough to be exactly who they were. Maya's fingers danced across the keys with increasing confidence. She was not thinking anymore. She was feeling. The music poured out of her like a river that had been dammed up too long. All the pressure of the past 3 weeks, all the confusion about who she was becoming, all the fear and hope and uncertainty, it all flowed into the piano and out into the world. She played faster now with more intensity. The piece built and built. It was no longer Chopin. It was Maya. It was the sound of a girl who had lost everything and kept going. It was the sound of survival and stubbornness and refusing to give up. It was loud and messy and absolutely honest. And then at the peak of the crescendo, Maya brought it back down. She returned to the gentle opening melody of the Chopin piece. But now it sounded different. It sounded like coming home, like finding peace after a storm. She played the final notes softly, tenderly. Then silence for a moment. No one moved. No one breathed. Then the audience exploded. They were on their feet again, screaming and clapping. Some were crying. Others were laughing with joy. The applause seemed to shake the walls. Maya stood up from the piano. Her legs felt weak. She had taken a huge risk. She had abandoned the safe, practiced performance, and done something wild and unpredictable. It could have been a disaster. But it was not. It was magic. The first judge was shaking his head in amazement. When the applause finally died down enough for him to speak, he said, "What you just did was incredible, and incredibly brave. I could see it happen. You started playing safe, and then you made a choice. You chose authenticity over perfection. You chose truth over technique. And it was extraordinary." The woman judge was wiping her eyes. "I have judged this competition for 5 years," she said. "I have heard hundreds of performances, some good, some bad, some forgettable, but I will never forget what you just did. You took a risk on live television. You trusted your instincts, and you showed everyone watching that real artistry is not about being perfect. It is about being brave enough to be real." The older judge smiled warmly. "Maya, I told you at your audition that you have soul. Tonight you proved it again. You also showed us that you are growing as an artist. The willingness to take risks, to improvise, to follow where the music leads even when it is scary. That is what separates great musicians from good ones." He paused. "Of course you are going through to the next round. We would be fools to let you go." 3 more yeses. Maya had done it again. She walked off stage feeling lighter than air. Backstage, other contestants stared at her with new respect. A few came over to congratulate her. "That was insane," said a young singer named David. "When you started improvising, I thought you were going to crash and burn, but you pulled it off. That took guts." "Thank you," Maya said. She was still shaking from adrenaline. Jennifer was waiting in the audience area. She grabbed Maya and hugged her tight. "I'm so proud of you. Not because you made it through, but because you found your courage. You stopped trying to be what you thought they wanted and started being yourself." The next few days were a whirlwind. Maya's second performance went even more viral than her first. The video was shared millions of times. People made reaction videos watching her performance and crying. Musicians analyzed what she had done. Music students studied her improvisation. She became not just famous, but iconic. With the new attention came opportunities. A music label wanted to sign her. A concert hall invited her to perform. A talk show wanted her as a guest. It was overwhelming and exciting and terrifying all at once. But there were also darker sides to the sudden fame. Tabloid websites published stories about her past. They found people she had known in foster care and interviewed them. Some of the stories were true. Some were exaggerated. Some were completely made up. Maya felt like her life was being dissected in public. One particularly cruel article claimed that Maya was not really homeless, that it was all an act for the competition, that she was staying with Jennifer and only pretending to live in shelters for sympathy votes. The accusations hurt deeply because they questioned the one thing Maya had always been: honest. "Do not read that garbage," Marco told her when he found her crying in their usual spot. "Those people do not know you. They do not know your truth." "But what if people believe them?" Maya asked. "What if everyone thinks I am a liar?" "The people who matter know the truth," Marco said firmly. "I know, Jennifer knows, Mrs. Garcia knows. The judges saw your heart when you played. That is what matters." Still, the accusations bothered Maya. She felt like she had to prove herself constantly. Prove she was really homeless. Prove she was really talented. Prove she deserved the attention. It was exhausting. The pressure affected her practicing. She became too self-conscious, too aware of all the eyes on her. She made mistakes she never made before. She second-guessed every choice. Jennifer noticed the change. "You're in your head too much," Jennifer said during one session. "You are thinking about what everyone else wants instead of what the music needs." "How do I stop?" Maya asked. "How do I ignore everything?" "You do not ignore it," Jennifer said. "You accept it. Yes, people are watching. Yes, they have opinions. Yes, there is pressure. You accept that these things are true and then you play anyway. Not despite the pressure, but with it. Let it fuel you instead of frighten you." Maya tried to take the advice to heart. She practiced meditation. She worked on breathing exercises. She tried to find the calm center inside herself where only the music existed. It was hard, but slowly she began to feel more grounded. Meanwhile, the competition continued. Every week more contestants were eliminated. The performances got better and better. Maya watched her competitors with awe. They were so talented, so polished. Many had been training their whole lives for opportunities like this. One contestant in particular stood out. Her name was Victoria. She was 23, classically trained at a prestigious music conservatory. She played violin with technical perfection. Victoria was kind to Maya, but there was also a competitive edge. They were both considered frontrunners to win. "You know, one of us is probably going to beat the other," Victoria said to Maya one day between rehearsals. It was not mean, just factual. "I know," Maya said. "For what it is worth, I think you are incredible," Victoria said. "What you do with the piano, the way you connect with people, I cannot do that. I can play the notes perfectly, but I cannot make people feel the way you do. And I cannot play as technically well as you," Maya admitted. "So I guess we both have our strengths." "May the best woman win," Victoria said, extending her hand. Maya shook it. "May the best woman win." As the competition progressed, something unexpected happened. The constant attention and pressure started to feel normal. Maya learned how to handle interviews without feeling attacked. She learned how to ignore negative comments online. She learned how to protect her peace while still being open to the experience. She also started to help other people. Maya used her platform to talk about homelessness, about the struggles of youth in foster care, about how music saved her life. She visited shelters and spoke with young people who were going through what she had gone through. She became more than just a competitor. She became an advocate. "You are using your voice for good," Mrs. Garcia told her during one of their library meetings. "I am proud of you for that." "I just want people to understand," Maya said. "When you see someone on the street, they are not invisible. They are not nothing. They are people with stories and dreams and talents. They deserve to be seen." The semi-final round approached. Only 6 contestants remained. Maya, Victoria, David the singer, a dancer named Lisa, a magician named Robert, and a comedian named Sarah. They were all extraordinary in different ways. Any one of them could win. For the semi-final, Maya decided to perform an original composition again. She had been working on it secretly, not even showing it to Jennifer until it was finished. She called it Invisible No More. It told the story of her journey from the streets to the stage, from being overlooked to being seen, from silence to voice. The night of the semi-final, Maya felt surprisingly calm. She had done everything she could to prepare. She had practiced until her fingers ached. She had memorized every note. She had poured her heart into this piece. Whatever happened now was out of her control. She waited backstage, listening to the other performances. Victoria played a Bach concerto that was absolutely flawless. Lisa danced a contemporary piece that made the audience gasp. David sang an original song that brought people to tears. The competition was fierce, then it was Maya's turn. She walked onto the stage. The audience cheered. She sat at the piano. She took a deep breath. She placed her hands on the keys, and she began to play. Invisible No More started quietly, almost silent. Just a few notes, soft and tentative, like someone afraid to be heard. Gradually, the music grew stronger. The melody became more confident. It represented gaining courage, finding voice, learning to take up space. Maya played with complete focus. She was not thinking about the judges or the audience or the cameras. She was thinking about every person who had ever felt invisible. Every kid in foster care who felt like no one wanted them. Every homeless person that pedestrians walked past without seeing. Every person who had been told they did not matter. The music swelled. It became powerful and defiant. It said, "I am here. I exist, I matter. You will see me now. Whether you want to or not." Maya's fingers flew across the keys. The piano rang out with strength and determination. This was not a plea for recognition. This was a demand for it, and then the music transformed again. It became gentle but joyful. This was the part about being seen, about being valued, about discovering that when you find your voice, when you refuse to stay invisible, the world opens up in ways you never imagined. The melody was hopeful and bright, full of possibility. Maya played the final notes with tears streaming down her face. Not sad tears this time, happy tears, grateful tears. She had told her complete story through music. From beginning to middle to now, from invisible to visible, from voiceless to heard, the audience went wild. Standing ovation again. Maya stood and bowed. She looked out at all those faces, all those people who were seeing her, really seeing her. Not as a novelty or a story or a symbol, but as an artist, as a person, as someone with something important to say. The judges stood up too. All three of them. That almost never happened. The first judge had tears running down his face again. Maya, he said, you have grown so much since your first audition. As a musician, yes, but also as a person, as an artist. You have found your voice and you are using it beautifully. That piece was a masterwork. Original, moving, powerful. You should be very proud. The woman judge nodded. What I love most about watching your journey is that you have not lost yourself despite all the attention. You could have become arrogant. You could have let fame change you, but you have stayed true to who you are. You have stayed humble and focused on what matters. The music, the older judge smiled. When you first auditioned, I saw potential. Now I see artistry. You are the complete package, Maya. You deserve to be in the finals. Maya advanced to the finals. So did Victoria, David, and Lisa, 4 finalists, 1 winner. The final performance would be in 2 weeks. On that night, one of them would win $100,000 and a recording contract. One of them would have their life changed forever. Maya knew the finals would be the hardest performance yet. The pressure would be immense. The scrutiny would be overwhelming. But for the first time since this whole journey started, she was not afraid. She had found her voice. She had learned to trust herself. She had discovered that being vulnerable was not weakness but strength. Whatever happened in the finals, Maya had already won something more valuable than money or fame. She had won herself back. The girl who loved music. The girl her mother had raised. The girl who believed that everyone deserves to be heard. She was no longer invisible. And she would never be invisible again. The 2 weeks before the finals passed both quickly and slowly. Maya felt like she was living in a dream. Reporters followed her everywhere. Her face appeared on magazine covers. People recognized her in grocery stores and asked for autographs. It was surreal, but through it all, Maya tried to stay grounded. She still visited Marco at their old corner. She still went to the shelter, though now the staff had arranged a semi-private room for her. She still practiced at Jennifer's studio every day. She refused to let success separate her from the people and places that had shaped her. You are handling this better than most people would, Jennifer said one afternoon during practice. Many people would let fame go to their heads, and how could I? Maya asked. A month ago, I was sleeping on a thin mattress surrounded by 30 other women. I was eating day-old sandwiches. I was invisible to almost everyone. I cannot forget that. I will not forget that. For the finals, Maya struggled to decide what to play. She had 3 original compositions now. Mama's song, Invisible No More, and a new piece she was working on. She also considered playing a classical piece to show her technical growth, but none of it felt right. What is the story you want to tell? Jennifer asked. What do you want people to remember? Maya thought about it for a long time. I want them to remember that music is for everyone, that you do not need expensive training or perfect circumstances to have something beautiful to offer the world. I want people to understand that the person they walk past on the street might have an entire symphony inside them. Then play that, Jennifer said simply. Maya decided to perform a medley. She would combine elements from all 3 of her original pieces, weaving them together into one continuous performance. She would also include snippets of pieces her mother had taught her as a child, simple children's songs transformed into complex arrangements. It would show where she came from and where she was going. Past and future, connected through music. The piece was ambitious, very ambitious, perhaps too ambitious. It required constant transitions between styles and moods. One wrong note or missed transition could ruin the entire thing. But Maya felt it was right. This was her story, all of it. The good and bad, the simple and complex, the pain and joy. She practiced obsessively. Jennifer worried she was overdoing it. "You need rest," Jennifer said. "You need to take care of yourself." "I will rest after the finals," Maya promised. But she could not stop. The performance had to be perfect. Not technically perfect, as she had learned that trying for technical perfection killed the soul of her music, but emotionally perfect, honest, true. 3 days before the finals, something happened that shook Maya deeply. She received a letter. It had been forwarded through the television show's producers. The return address made Maya's hands tremble. It was from her aunt, her father's sister, the aunt she had not seen or heard from since her parents' funeral 7 years ago. Maya opened the letter with shaking hands. The handwriting was familiar. She remembered her aunt's birthday cards when she was little. The letter was short. "Dear Maya, I saw you on television. I cannot believe how you have grown. How talented you are. I am so sorry I lost touch with you after your parents died. I was dealing with my own grief and problems and I failed you. I should have taken you in. I should have been there for you. I was not strong enough then, but I want to try now. If you are willing, I would like to reconnect. I would like to be family again. I live in the city. My address and phone number are below. No pressure. Just know that you have family out there who loves you and is proud of you. Your Aunt Carol." Maya read the letter 3 times. Emotions swirled inside her. Anger that her aunt had not been there when she needed her most. Hurt that she had gone through foster care and homelessness when she had family who could have helped. But also hope. The possibility of family, of belonging, of having someone who shared her history and knew her parents. She showed the letter to Marco. He read it carefully and handed it back. "What do you want to do?" "I do not know," Maya admitted. "Part of me wants to call her right now. Part of me wants to tear up the letter." "Both feelings are valid," Marco said. "You have every right to be angry, but you also have every right to want family. Whatever you decide, make sure it is what you want, not what you think you should want." Maya decided to wait until after the finals to respond. She could not handle any more emotional upheaval right now. She needed to focus. The letter went into her backpack, unresolved. The day of the finals arrived. Maya woke up early in her small shelter room. She took a long shower, letting the hot water ease the tension in her shoulders. She put on a new dress, not borrowed this time, but purchased with money she had earned from a small performance she did at a local charity event. It was simple and black, but it fit properly and made her feel confident. She clasped her mother's necklace around her neck. "I am doing this for you, Mama," she whispered. "And for me. And for everyone who needs to believe that impossible dreams can come true." Jennifer picked her up in her car. They did not talk much during the drive. There was nothing left to say. Maya was as prepared as she could be. Now it was just about doing it. At the theater, the energy was electric. This was the finals. The culmination of months of competition. Hundreds of people had auditioned. Only 4 remained. The theater was packed. Every seat filled. Cameras everywhere. This would be broadcast live to millions of viewers across the country. Backstage, Maya saw the other finalists. Victoria looked calm and poised as always. David was doing vocal warm-ups. Lisa stretched in a corner. They were all dealing with nerves in their own ways. When they saw Maya, they all smiled and wished her luck. Despite the competition, they had become friends of sorts. They respected each other's talents. "Whatever happens tonight," Victoria said, "this has been an incredible journey. I am glad I got to share it with all of you." They all nodded in agreement. Win or lose, this experience had changed all of them. The show began. The host came out to huge applause. He talked about the journey, showed highlight clips from throughout the competition, built the anticipation. Finally, it was time for the performances. David went first. He sang an original song about overcoming doubt. His voice was powerful and emotional. The audience loved it. Victoria went second. She played a violin piece that was technically flawless and deeply moving. Lisa went third. Her dance was a beautiful blend of strength and grace. Then it was Maya's turn. As she waited in the wings, she felt surprisingly calm. All the nervousness was gone. She had done everything she could. Now she just needed to trust herself. Trust the music. Trust that her truth would reach people. The host announced her name. "Ladies and gentlemen, Maya Santos." The audience erupted in cheers. Maya walked onto the stage. The lights were bright and warm. She could not see individual faces, but she could feel the energy of the crowd, all those people waiting to hear what she had to say. Maya sat at the piano. She did not speak. She just placed her hands on the keys and began to play. The medley started with Mama's song, that gentle, loving melody that represented her childhood, her mother's lessons, the time before loss. Maya played it softly, tenderly. It was like a lullaby, like a memory of safety and love. Then the music shifted. It became darker. This was the transition into the harder years, the pain of losing her parents, the confusion of foster care, the loneliness of feeling unwanted. The music grew more complex, more dissonant. It represented chaos and grief. Maya's fingers moved faster now. She transitioned into elements of invisible no more. The quiet notes of feeling unseen, of being one person among millions, unnoticed and unvalued. She played the frustration of having dreams that seemed impossible, of having talent but no opportunity. But then the music began to change again. It grew stronger, more confident. This was the part about finding courage, about deciding to try despite the odds, about refusing to stay invisible. The melody became more powerful, more insistent. It demanded to be heard. Maya wove in some of the simple songs her mother had taught her. Children's melodies transformed into something profound. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star became a meditation on hope. Mary Had a Little Lamb became a statement about innocence and loss. She took these simple pieces and showed how much depth they could contain, how much emotion could be packed into a few notes. The transitions were seamless. One piece flowed into the next like chapters in a book. Past and present, pain and healing, struggle and triumph. It all blended together into one continuous story, Maya's story, but also the story of anyone who had ever felt small or forgotten or dismissed. The music built to a crescendo. Maya played with everything she had, all her technique, all her emotion, all her truth. Her fingers flew across the keys. The piano sang out with power and beauty. It filled every corner of the theater. It reached into every heart, and then at the peak, Maya brought it back down. She returned to the opening melody of Mama's song, but now it sounded different. It sounded like coming home after a long journey, like finding peace after struggle, like finally being able to rest. Maya played the last few notes gently, quietly, a whisper rather than a shout. The final note hung in the air for a long moment. Then silence. For several seconds, no one moved. No one breathed. The theater was completely still. The host put a sash on her, handed her a trophy, talked about the prize money. Maya heard it all through a fog. She looked out at the audience. Somewhere out there, Marco was watching. Jennifer was watching. Mrs. Garcia was watching. Everyone who had believed in her when she could not believe in herself. In the weeks that followed, Maya's life changed dramatically. The prize money meant she could afford an apartment. A real apartment with a bed and a kitchen and a door she could lock. It felt like luxury. She could buy food without counting every penny. She could take long showers without feeling guilty. She could sleep without 30 other people in the room, but Maya did not forget where she came from. She donated a large portion of her winnings to homeless shelters and youth programs. She started a foundation to provide music lessons to underprivileged children. She wanted to make sure other kids like her would have opportunities she almost missed. The recording contract led to her first album. She called it Invisible No More. It was a collection of her original pieces plus new compositions. The album was successful, but more importantly, it was honest. It was her truth captured in music. Maya also reconnected with her Aunt Carol. It was awkward at first. There was hurt to work through, trust to rebuild, but slowly, carefully, they began to form a relationship. Carol could never replace the years Maya spent alone, but she could be there moving forward, and that mattered. Maya was accepted to a prestigious music conservatory with a full scholarship. She would finally get the formal training she had always dreamed of, but she promised herself she would never lose the raw honesty that made her music special. She would learn technique, but she would never sacrifice soul for perfection. 6 months after winning the competition, Maya returned to her old street corner, the place where she used to play her broken keyboard for spare change. This time she set up a real electric piano. She put out a sign that said, "Free concert for the neighborhood." A crowd gathered quickly. People recognized her. But she also played for people who had no idea who she was. People who were just walking by and stopped because they heard beautiful music, just like the old days. Marco sat on the curb nearby, smiling proudly. Jennifer stood in the back of the crowd with tears in her eyes. Mr. Chen closed his deli early to come listen. Mrs. Garcia brought her husband, all the people who had helped Maya along the way. Maya played for 2 hours. She played her competition pieces. She played simple children's songs. She played requests from the crowd. She played her heart out just like she always had. The difference was that now people stopped and listened. Now she was visible. Now her voice was heard. At the end of the concert, a young girl approached shyly. She looked about 12. Thin and nervous. "Excuse me," the girl said quietly. "I loved your music. I want to learn piano, but my family cannot afford lessons." Maya smiled. She saw herself in this girl. The hunger for music, the dreams that seemed out of reach. "What is your name?" Maya asked. "Rosa," the girl said. "Well, Rosa, I am starting a program to teach music to kids for free. Would you like to be one of my first students?" Rosa's face lit up. "Really? You would teach me?" "Really," Maya said. She wrote down the address of her new music studio. It was a small space she had rented with her winnings. Nothing fancy, but it had good pianos and room for students. "Come by next Saturday. Bring any friends who want to learn." As Rosa ran off excitedly, Maya felt a deep sense of peace. This was what it was all about. Not fame or money or trophies. It was about passing on the gift. About making sure the next generation of invisible kids knew they could be heard. About using her voice to amplify others. That evening, Maya visited her parents' graves. She had not been there since the funeral. It had been too painful. But now she was ready. She brought her portable keyboard and set it up by their headstones. "Hi, Mama. Hi, Papa," she said softly. "I have so much to tell you." She told them about everything that had happened. About living on the streets. About the competition. About winning. About finding her aunt. About starting her music program. She cried as she talked. Happy tears and sad tears all mixed together. "I wish you could have been there," Maya said. "I wish you could have seen it. But I felt you with me. Every time I played, I felt you with me." She placed her hands on the keyboard. She played Mama's song one more time, the piece that started everything. As she played, she realized something important. Her mother had been right all along. Music speaks when words fail. Music connects us when everything else falls apart. Music reminds us that we are not invisible, that we matter, that we are heard. Maya finished playing and sat in silence by her parents' graves. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Birds sang in nearby trees. The world continued turning, beautiful and broken and full of possibility. She thought about the girl she used to be. Homeless and afraid, feeling invisible and worthless. That girl had been so small, so beaten down by life. But that girl had also been strong enough to keep going. Brave enough to take a chance, stubborn enough to refuse to give up, and now here Maya was. No longer invisible, no longer silent, no longer afraid to take up space in the world. She was a musician, a teacher, an advocate, a person with a voice that others wanted to hear. The journey was not over. There would be more challenges ahead, more struggles and doubts and obstacles to overcome. But Maya knew now that she could handle it. She had survived so much worse. She had found her strength in the darkest times. Nothing could break her now. Maya stood up and touched her parents' headstones gently. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything you gave me, for the music, for the love, for teaching me that everyone deserves to be heard. I promise I will never forget. I promise I will keep playing. I promise I will help others find their voices too." As she walked away from the cemetery, Maya felt lighter than she had in years. She had done what she set out to do. She had taken her pain and transformed it into something beautiful. She had taken her silence and turned it into a song. She had taken her invisibility and made it into a light that others could see. The street girl who everyone laughed at had become the musician who made them cry. But more than that, she had become herself, fully and completely herself, visible, valued, heard, and that was the greatest victory of all.